Hello, my name is Brad Spence, and today we'll be talking about the First Italian War of Independence. This would be part one of a two-part series on the Italian Unification Wars. To get some context of why it was called the War of Independence is because ever since the fall of the Western Roman Empire, the Italian peninsula tended to be under the control or influenced by France, Austria, and Spain. The idea of Italian unification wasn't a new one. Since the 15th century, the idea of a united Italy was born with Niccolo Machiavelli of the Prince saying to free Italy from the barbarians. But with the French Revolution and the invasion of Italy, this brought liberal ideas and nationalism to the Italian peninsula, which led to the idea of Risorgimento. Resurgence was born. There had been uprisings in the 1820s and 1831 which were led by a secret organization called Carbonari, but were crushed by the Austrians. With the Carbonari failing and one of its members of the group, Giuseppe Mazzini, an avid Republican, formed Young Italy, which played a major role in the 1848 revolution. The 1848 revolution began in the Kingdom of the Two Sicilies, where King Ferdinand II disastrous agricultural reforms, having rallied Sicilian landowners and peasants against him, and they kicked out Neapolitan troops from the island except Messina, which held out against the revolutionaries, and the revolutionaries proclaimed the separatist Kingdom of Sicily. Meanwhile, Naples' king, Ferdinand II, is forced to accept a liberal constitution which is followed by other liberal constitutions throughout the Italian states. On the 18th of March, when news of Vienna revolt, Milan and Venice revolted, forcing Joseph Radetzky withdrawing his army into a quadrilateral between Verona, Legnano, Mantua, and Pescara, and the provisional governments in Lombardy and Venice proclaimed the Republic of San Marco. On the 23rd of March, the Kingdom of Sardinia declared war on the Austrian Empire, with King Charles Albert, who, when he was younger, had sympathized with the 1812 constitutional uprising, became the champion of Italian independence, and many volunteers joined the Sardinian army. The Sardinian army marched into Lombardy and defeated the Austrian army at the Battle of Goletto Bridge and marched slowly through Lombardy. The Papal army under Giacomo Durando marched to support the Sardinian offensive, but Pope Pius IX withdrew his support and on 29th of April ordered the army to return, but he disobeyed the order and continued the march, but was defeated at Planuda on March 8th, but held Vicenza due to a lack of support from the Sardinian army. The city fell on June 10th. Radetzky launched an offensive against the Italian army, defeating Charles Albert's army at the Custoza and pursued them to Milan. With the recent defeat, Charles Albert signed a truce with Radetzky despite Milanese protests, and the Sardinians withdrew from Lombardy on August 6 and signed the armistice of Sarasco on the 9th, and the Austrians reoccupied Lombardy and restored the pre-revolutionary regimes of Dona and Parma. The Austrians would take most of their former pre-war holdings except for the city of Venice, and after returning from South America, Giuseppe Garibaldi, remember that name for later, with 1,000 men fight for the Milan government. On September 3rd, King Ferdinand II ordered the Neapolitan army to retake Sicily, but the Neapolitans met heavy resistance from the Sicilians, but the Neapolitans would retake the island on May 15th, 1849. On the 24th of November, Pope Pius faced a popular uprising in Rome, fled to Gaeta and called the Catholic powers to restore him to power. On February 9, 1849, the Republic of Rome is declared with Giuseppe Mazzini, Carlo Amini, Aurelio Saffi ruling the Republic as the Triumvirate. On the 1st of March, the Sardinian Parliament voted to resume the war with Austria, but got defeated at the Battle of Novara on the 23rd, which led to King Charles Albert abdicating the throne in favor of his son, Victor Emmanuel, and he signed another armistice with Radetzky the following day, which freed Radetzky's army to crush the rebels in Lombardy. The new French president, Louis Napoleon Bonaparte, nephew of the famous Napoleon Bonaparte, despite being sympathetic to Italian unification, decided to support the Pope to gain favor of French Catholics. and sent an army to invade the Roman Republic, with Austria invading from the north and the Neapolitan army from the south. When the Sardinians were defeated at the Battle of Novara, Garibaldi and his men moved to Rome to support the Roman Republic from the Republic's enemies. Despite their best efforts of trying to save the young Republic, Rome would surrender to the French on July 2nd, ending the Republic and restoring the papacy. Despite a desperate defense of Venice, the city would surrender to the Austrians on the 22nd of August, ending the First War of Italian Unification. Stay tuned for part 2. Remember to like and subscribe. See you next time.